views expressed on this program are those of the hosts, guests, and callers, and are not necessarily those of this station, its management, or other advertisers. You're listening to Transformation Talk Radio.
Get fired up for Spirit Fire Radio with your hosts, Dorothy, Riddle, and Steve Kramer. Get ready to shine the light on universal spiritual principles and uncover ways that ageless wisdom can guide you in cultivating consciousness in these modern times. Bring purpose to your life through practical spirituality and add to your awareness with Spirit Fire Radio. Now, here are your hosts, Dorothy, Riddle, and Steve Kramer.
Hello, welcome to another episode of Spirit Fire Radio. We are on the fourth week of discussing and discerning discernment. It's been a wonderful journey. I'm joined once again with my lovely co-host, Dr. Dorothy Riddle. Hi, Dorothy.
Hi, Steve.
It's lovely to be with you.
Absolutely. And this has been a very rich month so far. I look forward to this week as well.
Yeah, it's been quite a bit of discernment on discernment. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, Dorothy, here we go. Let's begin.
Mm-hmm.
Discernment. What would you like to lead off with? I'm just going to throw you the ball today.
Okay. Well, I think I'd like to talk about discernment and our moral compass. So we talked last week about ethical behavior and how the role that discernment plays in determining what's true. But to me, what sets the framework for any ethical choice is what we call our moral compass, which is the guidelines, the values that we choose to uphold. And it's the moral compass that often seems to be lacking right now, unfortunately, in our society. People go for the immediate gratification, the personal self-interest. But the moral compass is about providing us with the kind of true north on what it is that is in the common good, what it is that will build and support respect and a sense of dignity for all beings. And so I think that's a good place to start this week.
Well, I appreciate that you said that the morals that someone chooses to uphold. So I wondered if we could just discuss even more clearly the difference between ethics and morals, because we could choose to uphold a certain moral standard, but we could also choose not to, right? Well, then it would not be moral. But there's a difference, right? It seems like ethics are sometimes they're sort of outside of us, or it is as if there are rules that someone has been provided with, or we've come to a conclusion almost as a group that this is ethical and this is not ethical. Whereas a moral compass seems to be more of an individual, it's a more of an individual principle. Does that sound right?
To a certain extent. I agree that there is individual choice, but I think that there also are there are boundaries beyond which, if you choose, you've actually wandered into unmoral or unethical behavier. Right,
and you said that about the common good. That really, if there's the line, and harm. We've talked about harmlessness quite a bit.
That's right.
That to be able to discern, am I on the other side, at very least, of harming another or harming myself?
Right.
We're moving.
So I would say that those are basic principles that become part of a moral compass, And I always go back also to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights from the UN, where the two principles that are emphasized are respect and dignity.
Yeah.
That everyone is deserving of respect and a sense of dignity. So those are pieces that we weave together, to me, into a moral compass, into maybe a way of talking about the two concepts is, if I want to behave ethically, then what am I going to test my choices against? And to me, the moral compass is what I test against.
Beautiful. Yes, very clear. It is how we gauge, right? It's how we sort of set, our compass to true north, right? Or by these, we would, we would almost build, it's almost a process of life, right? Is sort of this process of creating that compass and making sure consistently that it's pointing true north, right? Yeah,
we have to keep strengthening it. It's our choices that strengthen it or weaken it. If we choose to ignore it, then over time it erodes, and it's no longer present.
And if it erodes, what does that look like?
It looks like somebody who's just doing whatever they feel like is going to make them feel good in the moment.
Yeah, and
and damn the consequences
matter. Yeah, so we have to look at what will the outcome be. We talked about that a little bit last week. To be really able to assess, what will this choice bring forward, and can I discern between my actions and even down to my thoughts and what are my thoughts creating?
Well, and I'm not sure that it doesn't necessarily just come automatically. It's something that we develop through discernment, actually, in terms of what are the choices, what are the consequences of those choices, what if I do this, what if I do that? And I would go back to an example that I gave earlier, a couple of shows ago, about in my relationship with my father, where he finally, after exhibiting behavior that I'd never seen in him before, in terms of queer jokes and other things, finally admitted that no, he was not comfortable with my lifestyle, and said that if I would give him some books, he would start reading and start reflecting.
I love that story, because you're right. He had to really learn an effort. He had to really sort of replace some thought forms and replace some actions. And he probably liked collecting jokes that were somewhat off, and had to change some behavior and take responsibility, right? I mean, responsibility is a huge part of developing a moral compass, is our responsibility. But this idea of efforting, I loved in that story, you did it. You brought your dad, a big pile of books, and you said, well, here, you've actually chosen to not see this aspect of me clearly and in the light that it deserves, or I deserve, and here are some books that will at least give you some background so we can have a conversation, begin, right? And he did the work. It's effort, huh?
It is effort, yeah.
How long did it take him? Did he get there?
Well, I think it got better over time. It's not an overnight conversion kind of process, but it became easier. It became more comfortable. His wife, after my mother, herself chose to go through a similar process. She did it by talking with my sister and shifting her own attitudes. So we talked about this actually a show or two ago, that part of why we make a change, and you gave an example of this also, is because there's someone that we care about, and we realize that the attitudes that we're holding, the prejudices that we're holding, the implicit biases that we have are getting in the way of being able to relate to that person as a whole respected person with dignity.
Well, and may it be so that we are surrounded by people we love and people we respect and people who are intelligent. So much of this is we have to learn from one another. We've got to invite the other person into our world. It takes you saying, Dad, this sort of separation that I sense, you might not even sense it because you're ignoring it. I would like to see that diminish or actually dissolve. And so I will effort to bring you in, meet me halfway, and there you are. You are actually, we talk about separation being the great heresy. Well, those small steps in the butterfly effect, goodness gracious, if that isn't healing, on a huge scale, and doing so right by the world, just those simple acts. It's these small. That's not small at all, but I'm sure it changed their lives in many, many ways, and sort of raised the vibration of their thoughts and of their mental matter, completely. So if we all could effort in that way, right? But it takes a connection, and be willing to connect, and then say, all right, I will do the work, and I will discern for myself areas that,
and maybe the reason why that personal connection is so important is because it gives us a reason to make the effort.
Yeah.
Right? There's a reward at the end of the tunnel. It's not just effort for effort's sake, but because we really want to heal this breach, or we really want to have a better quality relationship with this person.
Yeah. Well, and we all came from somewhere, right? At least with family, we are physically connected, and we can rely on that. Beautiful story about your father. Going to go to a break, Dorothy. We'll be back right after these words.
Okay.
In this day and age, if you don't reinvent yourself, you may never find balance, peace, and the sustainable life that is your birthright. Angela Watson Robertson, known as the Reinvention Warrior and the host of breakthrough radio show Masters of Reinvention, is here to help you reinvent every area of your life. Tune in and hear from the best in the personal transformation business, and discover tips and tools for positive change. Live every month on Transformation Talk Radio.
Hey, did you know why they call the foundation the foundation? It's called the foundation because it completely eliminates your foundation for what you thought your reality was, and creates a whole new space where you can have an entirely new reality that is foundationless. So from my point of view, they should call it the unfoundation, or the foundationlessness. Either way, there's a big new global rewrite happening again, because these guys cannot stop changing. There should be like a Change Anonymous that Gary and Dane go to. And it's happening April 28th to May 1st. You can find out about it at accessconsciousness.com/global foundation. It's happening in Paris. Go to Paris, or do it online, or find a pod near you. These are all the options you have. And what else is possible?
Is traditional medicine not working for you? Do you still feel as if your health isn't 100%? Here at the Holistic Medical Center, Dr. Nushin Darvish and the qualified staff look through the dimensions of wellness and start a healing plan prioritized to your needs. Our physicians assess the whole you until complete health is achieved. Get the help you need by visiting drdarvish.com or call 425-451-0404.
Calling all moms, it's time to awaken your vibrant, intuitive, loving self in every area of your life. Join host Debbie Pokornik as she shares thoughts, stories, and tools to help you stand in your power. Listen to Vibrant, Powerful Moms helping everyday women create extraordinary lives. Mondays at 2:30 Pacific, 5:30 Eastern. For more information about Debbie, visit empoweringenergy.com. That's empowering with letters NRG.com. Discover the healing medicine from the giant monkey tree frog Cambo. Cambo practitioner Ginny Rutherford and professional psychic Todd Rolson have come together for lively discussions of alternative healing medicines from the Amazon. Ginny and Todd bring you Cambo Talk Radio. Tune in each Monday at 1 p.m. Pacific to hear from guests all over the world with real life stories and the medicinal benefits of Cambo. For more information, visit cambokiss.com.
Welcome back, listeners, to Spirit Fire Radio. We are talking about discernment, and I am with my guest. I'm wanting to tell our listeners about a radio show last year where you were my guest, and now we are lovely co-hosts. So, listeners, listen. Last year, I had Dorothy on Spirit Fire Radio back when we had a little bit of a different format, and something really wonderful happened in that conversation, and just really moved me, and it was a moment of discernment. So I wanted to bring it up in this show, and we were just talking about a story that Dorothy told about her father and him, not seeing the fullness of who she was in regards to her lifestyle. And it made me think of this instance. So, Dorothy, do you mind if I tell our listeners about that conversation?
Please go right ahead.
Wonderful. So we were doing a show, I believe it was on non-duality or positive harmlessness in practice. We were talking about Dorothy's books, a series called Enough for Us All, and we were talking about them on the radio, and it was just after the Black Lives Matter movement was really quite big. And at the time, I was one of those people who was firm in believing that all lives should matter, and that if we say Black Lives Matter, that actually there's a separation there, and in a sense we're being racist, that when we identify a person or a movement by a race, we are setting them apart, and in a sense we are ourselves being racist, and we should see everybody as one. And I was very sort of passionate about this idea that all lives matter, and why that was essentially what must have to be the hashtag. And just the week before, we were doing 3 interviews, and just the week before the horrible event in which Philando Castile was shot by a police officer, and it was recorded by his life partner and in front of her child and the child that the two of them as partners care for. And I watched that video as so many millions of people did, and something shifted in me. And once again, Dorothy, we keep talking about going into the heart, just bearing witness to this event and to this woman and her pain, and the just fact that this was so uncalled for and so unjust, it seemed, and wrong on every level. And I brought it to the radio show, and I said, Dorothy, I'm just really struggling. All of a sudden, I'm realizing that okay, it is Black Lives Matter, that me as a white man, I can't understand what this community is going through. And it is indeed specific to being a Black life in America. And it matters, and that there's a context to it. I'm putting it much clearer now than I did then, right, Dorothy? Because I've discerned.
Yes.
And you so very clearly helped me realize, and just you were so articulate in saying, Steve, you're basically, you're falling into this sort of glamour of idealism. Yes, it is ideal that all lives matter, but when you drop Black from the equation, you're actually not acknowledging that there is a Black history and Black contributions, and there was actually a wrong being done, and it has to be righted in a very in a way that is nominated, that is named and recognized. And it all got so clear for me. It's as if the fog lifted. And it was this beautiful moment of really discerning that I could feel the heat behind my passion of all lives matter. And if I had taken the time to step back and ask, why am I so sort of vehement about this? And it was that perhaps the pain of what was happening to this community, I wanted to go to the ideal so I could take refuge in it and really not go there and experience this pain, but it's my responsibility. And when I watched that video, I just bawled and cried, and I realized I was protecting myself, and it was actually, Dorothy, you might even say, it was not deliberately unethical, but it was wrong. So it was a beautiful aha and a beautiful discernment that you afforded me. So thank you. Much appreciation there.
Oh, you're very welcome. You're very welcome. It was a very important conversation that we had, I think. And it underscores also how important it is how we name things.
Yes.
And this is falling out of fashion, so to speak, in North America right now. People talk about, and President Trump has said this, has kind of boasted of not needing to be politically correct, or that kind of being demeaning about being politically correct. But the language of, quote, being politically correct is learning to use language that is inclusive, where everybody can see themselves in the space. Everybody experiences themselves as being someone who is respected, as someone who has dignity. That's what politically correct language is about. And politically incorrect language is about being exclusive, holding up one group at the expense of another group. And that language is very, very important.
Well, and
we talked in an earlier show about testing. Is it kind? Is it true? Is it necessary? Weren't those the three?
Yes.
Tests?
It's exactly what I was going to say. That he often, our president, he often disregards that as being these litmus tests, but not just for the real reason to test. Is something you're saying kind and useful? Is it necessary, kind and truthful? Is that when we say something, we're actually putting these ideas into the world. They really do. Thoughts are things. We create with our thoughts, and so I'm certain he's well aware of that. But yes, that litmus test of, is it true? Is it kind? And is it necessary? That's a big one, huh? Is it necessary?
That's right. And that gets to the other aspect of right speech, which we talked about before, and that is silence. Do we discern when our silence condones something that we don't actually condone, or when it's important to remain silent as opposed to being critical and saying something that is unnecessary or unkind?
Yes.
These are all aspects of discernment, is to distinguish between those.
And we talk about that quite a bit, or indeed you bring that up quite often. And what I love about is the compassion, once again, that is underneath that, this idea of remaining silent, which is quite the compassionate move, which is allowing a situation to happen, and you have discerned that it is best for you to stay silent in this instance, whether it be so that somebody else may see something without another input, or that a situation stays true, even if it's true in its own distortions, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
if that's making sense. But that idea of when not to say something, is can be quite the task for me anyway, to discern, right, when to be silent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is important, and to me it's related to this concept of witness. We've talked a lot about forms of harm and what we can do ourselves. Sometimes we can't change the situation, but we can bear witness to what other people are having to go through. So I know for myself, I thought about, why did I spend so much time watching what was happening with Hurricane Irma as it barreled through the Caribbean and then, up Florida into Georgia and on. And I can't stop that storm. I'm not even physically anywhere near where I could offer any practical help. But I can witness, I can experience it with the people. I can recognize that this is a terrible, terrible thing that they're going through, and not turn aside, not refuse to see.
Right. And there is indeed, on a vibrational, even a quantum level, right, when we are simply bearing witness with the fullness of our presence, that we sense, through bearing witness, that we are actually a part of it, and therefore we are connected. And if we can remain, as I know you were, with care and really watching this and just sending out, hope and optimism, prayer, and just being there in a sense energetically with what was unfolding at the time. Beautiful. Well, we're at our half break, Dorothy, so we are going to come back and after this break talk a bit more about discernment and how you can strengthen your discernment muscle. We'll be right back.
Tune in to Lucid Planet Radio with Dr. Kelly Neff. This hit show will illuminate your senses and empower you beyond your daily stressors and hardships. Renowned psychologist and author Dr. Kelly will captivate you with far-reaching topics and amazing guests as you wake to the greatest version of yourself. Learn to tap into your intuitions, think critically about our world, heal emotional and psychological wounds, and follow your passions to live your dreams. The Lucid Planet. Welcome home. Visit lucidplanetradio.com for more information.
Amber Teal, founder of The Healthy Edge, is bringing you the hit show Healthy Edge Radio, living with power, passion, and purpose. Amber provides the support and tools necessary for you to finally release the weight and emotions that are hidden beneath the weight. Tune in each month on Transformation Talk Radio. For more information on how you can take the next step with Amber, visit getthehealthyedge.com.
Hi, this is Laura Richer, host of On the Verge Radio. Sometimes you hear encouraging messages like transform your life now, become empowered, create the life you crave, and it all seems overwhelming and you're not sure where to start. I'm here to tell you that self-improvement is not always fun and easy, but it is always worth it. The path to creating positive changes begins with releasing the things that have been holding you back. Then you can create a life that inspires you. I know this because I've done it. You can find out more about what I do by visiting my website, seattlehealinghypnosis.com. I look forward to supporting you on your journey.
Are you struggling in a relationship and deeply craving some tools and support to get things back on track? Do you crave having a loving, compassionate relationship with Mr. Right, but always seem to pick Mr. Wrong? Well, Sarah Luce can help. She's created a 4-week online course starting September 28th that will teach you how to shift your energy and behavior to have new transformative outcomes. And you're going to get a personal one-on-one session with Sarah to ensure you get powerful, personal results. Sign up today at sarahluce.com.
Tune in each month to Synergenetic Living Radio, where Rick and Grace Paris discuss the synergenetic way of life, what it means to truly change your perspective in life, what it means to take control of your life and manifest your true desires.
For more information on Rick and Grace Paris and Synergenetic Living, check out synergeneticliving.com. Get clear on the life you desire and the current life you are creating and what is between the two. Synergenetic Living, living life loud.
Thrive is what we experience when our mind, body, and soul operate as one. When we thrive, we excel on all levels. Thrive is the mindset that matters. It is essential to our being. Have you ever found yourself looking for the instruction manual on how to thrive? You'll find everything you need to help you feel strong, powerful, and peaceful in your own body. So don't waste any more time. Visit thrivebyjen.com today.
Welcome back to Spirit Fire Radio. Before we go into the next segment, Dorothy, I just wanted to tell our listeners very quickly a little bit about our organizations. This is a cooperative creative endeavor between two organizations. One of those is Spirit Fire, and I am the half representing Spirit Fire, and we are an educational nonprofit, and it is our mission, rather, to bring awareness into everyday life, educate people on the importance of spirituality and consciousness and ways to bring that into your everyday life. We do that through our own meditation program called The Practice of Living Awareness, which is online, brand new meditations all week, every week. And you can find out more about that at spiritfire.com. And we've got a beautiful retreat center in Western Massachusetts where we host living awareness and consciousness-based programs and retreats. So we hope you will check us out. And Dorothy, the School for Esoteric Studies, tell us a bit.
Yes, I am with the School for Esoteric Studies. We also are an educational nonprofit. We focus on helping persons with a spiritual practice to deepen that practice in world service. And we do this through meditation, study, and service. And you can find out more about us at esotericstudies.net. We took a decision several years ago that it was important to collaborate with other like-minded organizations. So we're delighted to have this collaboration with Spirit Fire. But if you're with an organization that might be interested in collaborating with us, please look at the intergroup collaboration section on our website and look at the other material that we have there that may be of interest to you. That's at esotericstudies.net.
Beautiful. Thanks so much. So discernment, back to the conversation about discernment, it makes me think of an instance that I know I've mentioned on the radio before, but we've been talking about this idea of sort of the pause, this we talk about it in meditation as the pregnant pause, in that, within that pause, there's great life. And we talk about that in silence, that actually, silence is really quite rich if we allow ourselves that moment, that interlude, that space between to take in what has just happened and what is yet to come. It makes me think of this moment when I was in South Carolina with family and friends, and a friend of my brother's who I don't necessarily, our belief systems are quite different. And it was the time of George Bush, and he's a real rebel rouser, as sometimes I can be. And he was talking to everybody about voting for George Bush and asked who we were going to vote for. And I just was so taken, talk about ethics. I just thought, oh my goodness, you're really going to bring up politics at our dinner table. And, I had to really calm myself down. And of course, he was really wanting to go around the room and take stock of who was going to vote for who in this election. And I just couldn't believe it. And I paused and nipped it in the bud by saying, I'm not going to vote for him because I'm gay and I don't agree with his policies on gays, and knew in a sense that it would show him very clearly, like, sort of, okay, we're all going to talk about things that maybe perhaps made us uncomfortable, and he was unwilling to go any further with the whole conversation about politics or about gays, and it was this moment of sort of where we all had to discern. My whole family sort of looked around like, are we really all going to go there? And sort of at this moment agree that we're not going to take this conversation any further, because it was just actually not appropriate for a dinner table. And he even said, I don't know that we could, I don't really, I said, well, and how do you feel, about gay rights? It was way before gay rights were even a common thing to talk about. And he said, well, I don't believe we can talk about it. And instead of saying, well, you thought you could bring up politics at the table. And it was a beautiful moment of sort of discerning, well, sometimes you have to meet fire with fire. And like the appropriate action is that we all calm this down and move on. Sometimes we've got to take responsibility. Respond.
That's right.
Have the ability to respond in a way that we discerned will bring us back together when you can sense we're all apart.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, and we see the role of discernment in relation to right action in terms of figuring out what is actually going on and what our choices are and what our moral responsibility is in a particular situation. That's not always easy, or it's gotten more difficult. Things have gotten fogged over with, the idea that there are alternate facts as opposed to some kind of actual reality that we can observe and talk about.
Well, and Dorothy, opinions too. I find that when we talk about, facts, really sometimes that comes down to opinions. And I think that's where my story was going a little bit, that, opinions can get us in trouble sometimes. It seems we're in the age of opinion. And when we sometimes confuse fact with opinion, it does get foggy, and so much of discernment is about clarity and fact, and really finding, can we get to the truth either of a situation and what's happening in this situation, or can we just speak really in terms of truth and fact? Not always easy today because there's so much information out there and so many opinions.
That's true. And fortunately, we have some tools like factcheck.org, places where we can go and test, especially in terms of what has happened, historically, which sometimes gets presented in a distorted manner, and we can see, no, actually, that didn't happen, or actually, that did happen. But to me, in terms of discernment, I think one of the really challenging areas, which we've talked about before, is discerning how to be harmless. Because we have so many practices and so many influences that are harmful that we just kind of numb over, and we don't necessarily think clearly about the consequences of what we say, what we do, even what we think, because our thoughts also carry energy with them. And that's I think, you were talking about it takes effort to strengthen the moral compass, to wrestle with implicit bias. It takes effort to learn to behave in a harmless manner.
Yes, indeed. And, not to keep going back to this instance, but as I really think about what my processing was and my pause, was that I really, in a sense, just wanted to, I wanted to basically be critical. And we talk quite a bit about criticism and sort of lash out and say, well, how dare you? You're at our table and you're going to bring up politics and bring up that name. And actually, in a sense, what I wanted to do was less. There was less harm, right, than being critical and starting a sort of a fight or a tit for tat, and to sort of find a way that it could either be a discussion about principles or beliefs, and not a not get in an us versus them sort of conversation. So, that idea of, can we find a way to at least be less harmful, and that whole idea of duality as well stays with me from so many of our conversations of when we find ourselves looking or acting in a way that the other is way over there. It's a time to discern what's really going on, and how can we bring ourselves together and at least have a conversation that somehow links us and doesn't separate us.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think it's important to remember, when we're talking about strengthening discernment, strengthening our moral compass, that every action that we take will either strengthen or weaken. There are very few trivial actions, at least in our external environment. I'm not talking necessarily about, when we're just getting dressed and doing that kind of private stuff, but when we are engaged in the world, the choices that we make, how we use discernment to determine what the options are, will determine whether we are strengthening or weakening our ability to fine-tune this true north, moral compass.
Indeed. Yeah. Does it separate or does it unite? And again, that question of, is it necessary? Is it true? Is it kind? We just come back again and again that it is a constant process of observing. And that's really...
Well, and that's interesting. That's interesting, Steve, because we originally talked about the kind, true, necessary framework. I think it was raised in terms of right speech, of how we when and how we talk, but it's true of any action, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And actions being necessary, that's a tough one. Well, I mean, that's a really good one. I mean, certainly we need to get up and get dressed in the morning, but in terms of action, we really can create karma. So yeah, it's a matter of of discerning for very, very good reasons. Certainly our actions affect us all. So Dorothy, another break, and we'll be back, listeners, after these messages.
Awareness is universal. Establishing a living awareness through meditation brings peaceful, healthy, and creative well-being into your everyday life. The practice of living awareness, Spirit Fire's own meditation practice, is built on this belief and is designed for every level of practitioner. Each year, Spirit Fire hosts living awareness meditation retreats that allow you to explore the practice in depth at our retreat center in beautiful Western Massachusetts. Introduce yourself to meditation and the practice at the Foundation's retreat. Attend, in silence, a silent meditation retreat focused on mindfulness, presence, and nature, or be engaged with the meditation sittings themselves at the Deepening Retreat. Start adding to your awareness and attend a meditation retreat designed to cultivate consciousness in your everyday life. For details on attending a Living Awareness meditation retreat, visit upcoming events at www.spiritfire.com.
What is a brilliant culture, and how do we create them? Why are they important? Claudette Rowley has created a breakthrough 5-step process to help you align your culture with your business strategy for exceptional results. Looking for a culture that drives organizational excellence? Listen to Cultural Brilliance Radio, the second and fourth Friday of each month at 10 a.m. Pacific and 1 p.m. Eastern on Transformation Talk Radio. To learn more or work with Claudette, visit culturalbrilliance.com.
Do you know how to achieve wellness in all areas of your life? Hi, I'm Mary Jane Mack. Signs of wellness are a capacity to love and ability to nurture, a sense of purpose, a good sense of humor and plenty of fun in your life, a concern for others and a respect for the environment, a conscious commitment to personal excellence, a sense of balance and integrated lifestyle, and capacity to cope with whatever life presents. Well, people enjoy their lives and want them to last as long as possible. That's why the wellness mindset usually accompanies other constructive, healthy lifestyle habits. By adopting a wellness mindset and behaviors like eating well, taking the right nutrition for the body, exercising, and saying affirmations are just a few things to structure a healthy system of values and beliefs. I will be your wellness coach to help you achieve a wellness lifestyle. Call us at 888-777-4232. That's 888-777-4232. And visit us at MaryJaneMack.com.
Tune in to the Psychic Professors Show, The Voices of Spirit Radio, with international medium and spirit artist Dr. Susan Barnes on Transformation Talk Radio, featuring a variety of spiritual topics such as psychic art, spiritualism, EVP, psychic development, and mediumship. This hit call-in show provides listeners with breakthrough wisdom to enliven and enlighten their lives. Visit spiritartgallery.net.
Tune in each Friday, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern on Transformation Talk Radio.
Welcome back to Spirit Fire Radio, and we are going to wrap up this month on discernment. Dorothy, one thing that comes to mind is you've just got to surround yourself with good, smart people. It really helps if you're trying to discern. I'm so blessed always to have people around that I can ask questions. And, you've got to be somewhat fearless when it comes to discernment. You've got to be able to say, I don't know. Can you help me with this? What's your idea? Really being human, being on this planet, being connected is about sharing ideas and sharing our experiences and learning from one another and really synthesizing our experiences. And I know, listen, I am so blessed this whole month as we go topic to topic to topic. We have really such wonderfully we both have very different takes often on and approaches, even in terms of the way we come at it with, your vibration or my vibration. And I learned so much by being open and by asking questions and by not being afraid to be wrong. And when I'm wrong, saying, oh, that was wrong, or I just learned something. So there's so much to discernment is really about it being a process and enjoying the process, not being self-critical, as we say so much, right? And just being willing to explore and be willing to sort of take responsibility when you got something wrong or you made a wrong choice and discern, how did that happen? How can I do it again? So it's a constant learning, right? And if we see that as part of our evolution, and we don't look at things as black and white or right or wrong or better or worse or smarter or not, and realize we all have something to teach each other. And if we come at it with the fullness of ourselves and with some at least intention for integrity, right, we will learn. And we will learn to discern, in the process, because life is about choices and this process of evolution, whether we like it or not. We often learn by mistakes, but then it's important to say, well, all right, I won't do that again. But not only what will I do next time? And well, it won't be that, but what made me do that? So it's all just a process. So Dorothy, first of all, I'm so thankful to have you on this show, because it's just, there's so much just so much knowledge and wisdom, and I appreciate the take on all of these topics. So it's just a matter of being involved and being willing to participate. That's one of your favorite words, right? Participation.
Well, I agree. I feel the same way. I would say surround yourself also with others who value discernment, who themselves will be thinking that way and be helping you to think that way. I think, as we wrap up this month, Steve, I think it's really important that we acknowledge that discernment is not easy. It's not just that the process may not be easy, but it's not easy in a social context. There's a lot of social pressure towards groupthink, or agreeing with whatever the majority opinion is. And there's not that much, there's less support for the person who says, well, I see it a bit differently. I think this is something that matters. Or actually, I'm not sure that what you're saying is accurate. So it's difficult when what we know, if we go back to the concept of the moral compass, if the moral compass is pointing in a direction that is not where the popular position is, that's challenging.
And that's often the case, right? I mean,
yes, it is.
It's not so cheery to say, but in fact, it's often the case, which is why courage, I hear, as you're speaking, I'm hearing courage. It's why courage is so important. Isn't it Maya Angelou who basically says that courage is a quality? We all need courage, because without courage, we won't go where we haven't gone before. And that is, evolution.
That's true. And we are living in an environment, you used some slightly different words a bit earlier about this, but, where it's opinion, somebody's opinion is assumed to be as valid as somebody else's opinion. And there's been a real shift away from not valuing expertise. I'm in a project right now with a client that basically assumes that things are a blank slate, that nobody knows better than he does about how to achieve a particular end, and completely eliminating the fact that there actually is highly developed professional expertise that can inform how the project develops.
Yes, being willing to look outside oneself. Well, Dorothy, good luck with that. May discernment come his way. I mean,
Yeah, well, that would be nice. Exactly.
Right.
So I've been thinking about what are some strategies that we can use? What are some specific strategies that we can recommend to our listeners? And I have a couple that I'd like to put out there.
Perfect.
One is, and sometimes this is challenging for me, I will admit, is to listen more than we talk. To listen carefully, because oftentimes when we're in conversations with other people and they're talking, we're not actually listening. What we're doing is we're deciding what we're going to say next. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the listening process can carry discernment with it. We can listen without being discerning, but if we are intent on strengthening our discernment capacity, we can use that as a process.
Well, and can I piggyback that with another idea that goes so well with that? I say spend time in nature. When we spend time in nature, we can't help but receive, because nature is so rich. It's so inspiring. And if you allow yourself to really observe nature, be in nature, spend time with it, appreciate it, become one with nature. Every day you should be out in nature. It is this, you're exercising the same sort of muscle as being silent, which is, can I be in front of something that is wanting me to respond or react, and can I allow myself just to be with it? So to me, they kind of go hand in hand, that idea of practicing silence and also just practicing taking something in. And nature is such a good way to do that.
I would agree. I think another strategy that can help us is to focus on being proactive rather than only reacting. When we react, in my experience, we tend to react from an emotional place that's pretty blurry. It's not the clarity of discernment. Whereas if I am being proactive and I'm thinking through my options, I have the space there to discern. What do you think of that one?
I love that one. Options are beautiful. They create hope, as we remember. And again, I would just say meditation, again, is as you say, living life meditatively. And as you've so classically said, that meditation is a process of clearing distortions in the mind. And just 10 minutes, I would just say 10 minutes, of really centering oneself, bringing yourself into your center, whatever your meditation practice is. But to do that daily really helps us with not only observing what distortions may be there, but quite literally helps to clear distortions and bring us back to our center. I love the moment in our discussions, Dorothy, when you brought it back to the heart and said that really we've got to pause for a minute, bring ourselves back in. And I felt my heart sort of alight. And I went, yeah, that's when we remember we're all connected. And from that point, as you say, that is the North Star of our moral compass. We then can discern thoughts, actions, is this right? And should I move forward? Oh, beautiful.
I have a feeling we're out of time.
We are out of time, but I want to tell the listeners we're going to talk about balance. So, right, once you've made all of these discernments, well, you've got to keep it that way. You've got to keep it balanced, keep it steady, keep the flow going. Anything you'd like to say about balance?
I think we'll save that for next month.
Wonderful. Well, I look so forward to it. October and balance. It's going to be a wonderful exploration. So, listeners, thank you for joining us. Dorothy, as always, thank you for bringing your light and your wisdom, and I so appreciate it.
It's been wonderful.
All right. We'll talk next week. Bye.
Thank you for listening to Spirit Fire Radio. Tune in each Wednesday at 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 noon Eastern for your weekly guide to purposeful living and practical spirituality. Join hosts Steve Kramer and Dorothy Riddle as they shine the light on universal spiritual principles and uncover ways that ageless wisdom can guide you in cultivating consciousness in your everyday life. Add to your awareness with Spirit Fire Radio. To learn more, visit spiritfireradio.com.